Hi everyone, welcome to another podcast. This time me and Bjorn and Stuart Darkin is sitting down with Mat Ingram from Reflex Gaming, discussing omni-channel, online and a lot of other fun topics. Listen in.
Hello and welcome to this latest episode in the What's Up Yggdrasil series of podcasts. My name is Stuart Darkin, I'm Director of New Media at Square in the Air. Good to see you again. Today we're talking about the rise of game mechanics in slots, and I'm joined by Fred and Bjorn from Yggdrasil and also by Mat Ingram from Reflex Gaming. Gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind just taking 30 seconds or a minute just to introduce yourselves, I'd be very grateful.
All right, I'll give you my name, but I'm not sure how much I can say about the relevancy. But my name is Fred. I started a company called Yggdrasil. I'm the director CEO. That's why I'm here. Over to you, Björn.
Thank you for that, Fred. Yeah, my name is Björn Krantz. I'm running global market operations here at Yggdrasil. So we are responsible for driving sustainable long-term revenue growth through a well-defined customer and market operation strategy. Our unit have a 360 view on the revenue ecosystem and how we can impact that revenue ecosystem in a positive and sustainable way.
My name is Mat Ingram. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Reflex Gaming, who are one of the largest land-based suppliers based in the UK. Our pedigree is in land-based gaming machines of various sorts, and we also have a national operation as well. So we're I think the most profitable operator in the UK as well in terms of land-based. We now are trying to augment those land-based revenues with some online omni-channel activity, and we're working with Yggdrasil on that because of the scale and the nature of the distribution.
Thanks, Matt. It's really interesting, particularly to hear about the land-based background and how that brings sort of added nuance to your relationship with Yggdrasil. Fred, we're talking about mechanics today. We've dedicated a whole podcast to them. Why are they so important to modern slots?
I think they've been important for a very long time in the land-based industry. I mean, it's so the fact that it has migrated to online. It's just a natural development. I mean, I just can see how the online market, let's say the online game development, around casinos and slots and that what we're talking about, right, has developed over the years. When we were working previously in other companies like NetEnt and so forth, I think that the entire R&D section was kind of inspired/outsourced to the land-based, because they were the one that had to work with the innovation and given the all around the certification rules, and you have the hardware with the chassis and the mechanics that had to be developed, and a lot of R&D need to be sure what you were putting out there physically was actually working before you put it out. So it was easy for the online at the time to just copy whatever was out there, make certain replicas. There's no game developer that grew up in the online that can say they have never spent a lot of time in Vegas or even at the pubs in UK and being super inspired of what's done there. No one. You can just go and look at the hits historically in online. They have a match in the land-based. So it isn't until we start getting the real talent in the online side to starting developing their own mechanics, their own things. So you start to be less influenced by the land-based side and start more developing your own mechanics and treat them as your own intellectual properties. And I think for now, I think you see a lot of talent working with these mechanics. We see them coming onto our network, and they're working on our gems that we call them, the game enhancement mechanics, game engagement mechanics. So we see it's a natural step from land-based into online. Now you see innovation and that happening in the online sector. So I think that this ecosystem that we have created with streamers, with with operators, with third-party studios, or like, very talented such like Reflex and the others we have, working with our gems or creating their own gems and putting that on the network. It's just going to be online. It's going to be rocket speeding faster than land-based innovation has done, and I think we're seeing it now already. So I think it's a very interesting time for online and for gems and for intellectual properties and this ecosystem that we have created.
Bjorn, if we can turn to you, please, for the uninitiated, for those new to the topic, can you explain simply what a mechanic does for a game, why they're so important to players?
Yeah, I mean, what Fred said here in the beginning, that to create that ultimate player experience is absolutely everything. And what we, throughout this type of podcast, we have talked about the competitiveness of the market, where, the market can see up to a couple of hundred of new games coming out. So in all that output, differentiation is everything. And we need to create, that uniqueness of player experience. So that is why the mechanical frameworks is, I think, is a very important deliverable, a key deliverable. And what we are trying to do here, I mean, if you look at how we put the mechanics in front of the audience, it's like, you can take it in context of sitting in a Ferrari. When you start up the Ferrari and you feel the vibrations and you sort of see in front of you what the journey that you have in front of you sitting in that Ferrari, because the mechanical frameworks will give you that kick. So I mean, when we are looking at the mechanical frameworks and how we sort of push that into the market, of course, this is a mix in between how we work with RTP, volatility, different type of features, if it's, buy bonus, collection features, if it's jackpot feature, free spins, the themes, whatever it may be. So, I mean, from an audience perspective, when we work with mechanics, it's all about having the audience understanding the full potential of the mechanics, and that they do that very quickly in that delivery process. And I think we have done that really well for the mechanics that we have within Yggdrasil, the Gigablox, the Multimax, the splits, and we will see more of these mechanics coming out. So, I mean, when you work with the communication of these mechanics, when you build up the IP and brand awareness, of course, you build up a fan club as well. And that fan club will then search for that mechanical framework. So if we talk about, again, the general delivery in the market with hundreds of new games, it's very tough, to get the full differentiation. But a mechanical framework, if you search for Gigablox, you can do, hundreds of Gigablox games, or hundreds of Splits games, or hundreds of Multimax games, or whatever. So you build up a library of mechanical frameworks that is important for the audience to understand that this is what these mechanical frameworks are standing for from a player experience perspective. So that's sort of how we work with that.
It's really interesting what you say about the importance of differentiation, about creating searchable brands that can generate loyalty. Fred, I wonder if now Yggdrasil feels a pressure to create brand and promote mechanics, perhaps in a way that they didn't before.
Yeah, no, but this is we started actually we started doing that, but it was the attempt was we kind of got lost in it. I remember when we launched a game called Jungle Books, which was based on the Rudyard Kipling story, but we call it Jungle Books, and we launched it at ICE. I can't remember what year it was. Could it be 2018 even, or something like that? It was launched with, Jungle Books Fusion Realms. And the thing is when we took the decision on this, because I was thinking this is going to be it, we're going to be working on this, mechanics people are going to like with them, we can do series on this mechanics. That was the idea. And Fusion Realms was not really good name, but just saying that the reels are changing between spins, and there's things happening on the reels or in the game that will make these things change. Driven by characters, if Mowgli came in, it brought a new feature, and then Bagheera went out, and Snake came in, and so forth. I think the issue there was that first of all, it was a waste game from the beginning, and then someone in production said, no, we need to add more wild, so it's better with alliance games. And we didn't have that kind of a control of that. We just had an idea. We thought it was going to work, but then with the organization growing and the recruitment going, crazy, you kind of lost a little bit track. I think that we lost a bit track on that part, got lost in the creation of a bigger company and teams and recruitment and scalability and so forth. We thought we had that nailed because we were growing like crazy, and that was a natural development. So we launched Fusion Realms, I think it's 2018 on ice, as a first attempt. But then we just kept on, the whole roadmap was more around developing new mechanics, like a kind of a spaghetti strategy. You get a new mechanic, throw it on the wall, see if it sticks. The problem is it's the opposite of being true to a certain mechanics and redevelop it. So the strategy, instead of being focused around mechanics that we were trying to do, they kind of took it in a different way. Let's just do the spaghetti way and just throw mechanics out there and see what sticks. And even if something got stuck, we didn't repeat it, which was, I would say, very, very unfortunate. We should have been much more true to that previously. Now I'm going to say 18 months ago, we started talking about mechanics and developing the IPs, and we started with splits. It took a long time, and that was the way of showcasing that one, make it simple. We started to build in, and that's going to come as well later, as you see. We start to build in user experience guidelines in the mechanics, because the mechanics itself is just a mechanical way of how the math is being implemented and how the client is working, and the game server is forcing the client to work. But I think we're going to see more is that you build in guidelines for the exact user experience and you attach that to a mechanic. So you have not only mechanics, you have almost like you trademark the user experience. We see some of our partners already here on our network are doing that, and they're doing that successfully. So I say, when you talk about mechanics, you need to talk about the user experience of that mechanics, you need to talk about the intellectual property on that, because you want to try and protect that IP as much as possible. So you don't end up, developing a game that someone else takes exactly that game and launch that, and you have nothing to say about it. That's not where you want to be. So I think this is it's going to be more strategic, and it's going to be more R&D. Remember I said, talking about the R&D was done on the land-based side and hijacked by online. Now the R&D needs to happen with the online. You just to copy something now or be inspired by, I'm not sure that's going to fly anymore with the audience. You have a kind of a gatekeeper in terms of streamers. I know Matt has their opinion of streamers. I would like to bounce that into Matt a bit later and see what he says about that. But they can kind of I wouldn't say make or break a game, but they can at least make a game. I don't think they can really break a game, but they can make a game. So yeah.
Matt, can I come to you now? There's obviously real interest from Yggdrasil to tap into your experience from the land-based sector. And so I'm interested to hear your view on mechanics, how important they are in retail settings, and how that translates to online.
Okay, well, game mechanic sort of branding and IP creation isn't a new thing, as Freddie pointed out. Companies like WMS were doing this 10, 15 years ago, and that's what kind of really got me into slot games, actually, is the thing I loved about those WMS games, those G Plus Deluxe games, those Hot Super Respin games, is that they weren't particularly sophisticated in their presentation, but they had an amazing hook in them, and that hook is what we're now calling game engagement mechanics, right? And they branded them, they called them Hot Super Respin, and players could recognize that mechanic across a bunch of different game releases. And that opposed to, say, the kind of IGT approach in those days, which was, as you've pointed out, big brands, massive brands, and those were the things that made all the noise at the ice shows. But actually, for me, game mechanics were the far more engaging and important things, because branding a sort of a big sort of TV or movie brand is really just a veneer on top of the game underneath, and it doesn't protect that game if the game mechanic isn't right. And going back to Freddie's kind of car analogy, we're using the Ferrari analogy. I think it was Freddie or Bjorn, whichever.
It was Bjorn, I think. He's the one with the Ferrari, as far as I can tell.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, that's interesting because I and my game producers get rather bored with me saying, that the game mechanic is like the chassis of a car, and it's not the only important factor in a overall game design. But it's in my view, it's the most important one, and it's the thing on which everything else is built. And it's how it runs. The chassis of a car is like how it handles. Really, is the most important thing. And Reflex have always liked to try different types of game mechanic. We've experimented, often in the land-based arena, and because our pedigree is in that land-based sector, we've naturally gravitated towards certain kinds of game mechanics that work well within our legislative framework, particularly with our stakes and prizes restrictions, and that tends to mean that you do a certain type of game mechanic because it works well in that structure, and perhaps not use other types of game mechanic that don't work so well. But for online games, currently the legislation in the UK and elsewhere allows for, and players are demanding, different types of game mechanic, because you're not restricted by those stakes and prizes sort of legislations everywhere necessarily. And this is where Yggdrasil's GEMs come in. That not only are they online focused, which is a great thing, but they also have, your game mechanics have momentum in the marketplace. Due to previous use by Yggdrasil themselves, but also expanding that to partners in the Masters program. But the other sort of nice thing about them is that they haven't been overused yet. They're still unlike some other game mechanics. They're still fresh and exciting and interesting, and this makes them very attractive to us. Because we want to see what we can do with them as well.
So, Fred, Bjorn, either of you really, how does Yggdrasil know what players do actually enjoy?
Can I take that one? I'll take that one, Bjorn, if it's fine. Well, I think the approach, Matt, the approach to streamers, you should not only see them as a marketing channel, because they have the streamers we work with and the streamers we know, they have an integrity, and actually they start off as players. So keep in mind that they start as players, and then they engage as VIP players, and then they get some kind of a level status because they're streaming, and then they realize, hey, I can actually make money from this, becoming an affiliated streamer, an affiliate, but this is my way to market has been in streamer. So what they sit on they don't like this. They sit on a bunch of players that they have in their community. So if you come with a game, you approach them and you say, here's my game, here, look at this, what do you guys think? They say, that ain't gonna fly with my community. Or they're gonna say, I can give it a spin. I can give it a try and see what my players think. I can put it up in the community, we can do something about it. And so that's how we approach it from the beginning. So it was more like a lessons learned, you try something. And so it's not like you go out and you buy banners on the internet and say, and you hope you can see the clicks and you see the data there. So it's more of a soft data development, so to say. You see, you engage, you try things. It's a collaborative effect. Some streamers might have an audience where you have more or less appetite for your products than others.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing is just to try it out. We'll be happy to bring that on board. It's part of Bjorn's team there. They have excellent relationship with this.
It's really nice that you end on collaboration. It's obvious, and will be obvious to anyone listening, just how much Yggdrasil and Reflex are learning from one another through this collaboration, and also by extension how much online can learn from omnichannel. So thanks all. Thanks, Matt, again, and have a great day.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Matt.
Talk to you later.
Great to have you here.
Pleasure.
Cheers. Bye-bye.